Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good evening, Ronnie. How are you doing this Wednesday day? Wednesday day. That's what we're gonna call it. A Wednesday day.
I am doing good. I can't complain. I'm grateful. Yashika, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Can't complain at all. It's been a week, but you guys know how that is. So, good evening, good afternoon, everybody out there in YouTube land as well as Facebook land. Welcome to Ronnie and Yashika's Dating Discussions, our Wednesday night specials, right? And this
Mm-hmm.
week, we are picking up from where we left off last week in the discussion of our series, He Said, She Said, and When She Makes More Money, Part 2. The week, what was it, 2 weeks ago? It was just an amazing discussion. And just to give you guys a recap before we go into our commercial break, um, this started from a conference that Ronnie and I went to the last week in October in Atlanta, and there was a panel of gentlemen that had a discussion about different things going on between relationships. And one of the things that came up was when she makes more money than he makes, and how does it make how does it work in the relationship? And so we felt like this was the perfect opportunity to continue this discussion on our platform. And it got so good that we had to go into another week. And so we are at part two of He Said, She Said, when she makes more money than he does. And so now we're going to go into our commercial. I'll see you guys back here shortly. All right, we are back. We are back. And I'm just going to go ahead and introduce myself. Like we always do every week, I am Yasheka Foster, the artist of dating. And my co host, introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. This is Ronnie Walker, Master Coach of Exceptional Relationships, Dating, and Sex.
Oh, yes, that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. Okay, so Ronnie, last week we were discussing just like I said in the title, when she makes more money than he does. And there was some things that we discussed when we talked about one person mentioned from the alpha male female perspective, and I think that you said something along the lines of what was it? Some women make it a point to let the guy realize when she makes more money than him and she wants to kind of control the relationship. And so I think we should pick up from that point because this is my thought process behind it. Especially in our community, women are really showing up and showing out, right? They're getting degrees, they're getting their own businesses, they're entrepreneurs, they're CEOs, they're doing things that we didn't necessarily see our grandparents do, our grandmothers do, our mothers do, right? So they're stepping out and they're stepping up. And so in the communities, a lot of times, we as women saw our mothers, stay at home and do this and do that, and our fathers go out and get jobs, right? And so a man and again, everything I talk about usually is from my perspective or from my experience. And so, for example, what I saw in my grandparents' household, I saw my grandfather go out and he worked at a plant up in Detroit, Michigan. And then he would come home in the evening time and he would work on cars to make extra money, right? And so it was like I would say he was an entrepreneur, but of course they didn't know what that was back then. That was like his little gig on the side. You know what I mean? I don't even think they was using the word hustle on the side. It was just like his little thing on the side that he did to make extra money. He made really good money fixing cars after work. And so my grandmother tended to the house. And so when you take that same scenario, right? A lot of times the men saw that you didn't have time for anything else. You had to get out and find a job that paid enough to take care of the family. And so because of that, back then a lot of them really didn't focus on, I need to go get a trade, or I need to go get an education, or I need to go do something to say that I am licensed, or I have a degree in this field, because their thing was make money, take care of the family, take care of the family. And so I think that that kind of continued throughout the next generations, where a lot of the younger kids or the men coming up in the next generation saw that. They saw it as, I need to make money now. I need to do this. I need to make sure that, I'm doing what I need to do to provide for the family. So they forgot about that. They skipped over that educational part. Whereas that the women said, well, you know what, since I'm at home, I'm just going to go ahead and do this because I'm going to make sure we're good on this area. And so it just kind of started to I won't use the word, let me see, how do I say this? It didn't really start to separate us, but it kind of made the paths of the man and the woman a little differently. His thing was making money now, and that's why you had so many of our young men, especially where I come from, that were into things that were illegal, because they were just trying to make money now, make money now, make money now, and feed the family. Whereas that the women were more of, well, let me go about it this way. So although the goal was the same, sometimes they went about it differently, and because of it, it caused rift in, education levels and things like that. And so that's why I want to talk about, picking up from where we left off yet last week or the week before, about how, when you made the comment about sometimes there are those women, because we won't pretend like everybody's the same, that looks at that and say, okay, well, since I make more money now, I'm in charge, more or less.
Okay, well, there's a lot to cover. And let me say this.
Okay.
When we speak on such subjects like this, and what tends to happen is many don't want to talk about the race factor in this.
Hmm.
And it plays a part. And we have to be honest. When we're talking the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, all the way till today, there are many things that's changed. And so what, the white family experienced throughout a couple of centuries is different than what we experience.
Hmm.
We know segregation played a part in this.
Hmm.
Truth be told, there were jobs that they were not going to give men.
Hmm.
If you've ever listened to the story of Malcolm X, and he spoke of his journey in school, outperform all the white kids, everybody top, and then when it came to be saying, "What do you want to be?" the teacher asked everybody in class, and he says, "I want to be an attorney."
Hmm.
And she's like, "Oh no, no, you can't be an attorney. It's like maybe you can go get a job on the trains." And we know
Hmm.
back then, be it Amtrak or the railroads, you saw men holding those positions. So even back then, even segregation, you saw jobs that black men held and black women held. You
Hmm.
saw the women cleaning and things of this nature. Then you progress and you get into the 60s and 70s.
Hmm.
Now, also, feminism played a huge part in this.
Yeah.
A huge part in this. Whereas
Yeah.
many try to say, well, Ron, what about the crime bill back when Clinton and all of that?
Hmm.
Again, the numbers still don't add up in saying when black men left. No, that's not the whole story. However, we're not saying it didn't play some part, but not as big a part as many tried to play in that. In the end, if we're looking at it today, still today,
Hmm.
in the latest 2017, I believe it was consensus, black men still overwhelmingly make more than black women.
Hmm.
But if you look at the trends that are going because of school, other places that, again, men dropping out of school or taking on other professions, yes, the women are going to be outpacing the men. And it's a trend that we have to pay attention to because it's not going to slow down. So when women talk about, well, there are many of us going to school or going to college, then you transfer that into the debt.
Hmm.
So they also hold still for the debt. So we have to really look at it from a complete picture. Now, I don't think a lot of people, and I don't think it's done intentionally for most people, and leaving out the context. But when I spoke last week of a woman reminding a man that she makes more, there are those situations. As a matter of fact, there is someone, I can't remember her name, who wrote a book about that. There are many books, but just in terms of in our community where you do have women making more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because if you speak to enough men, especially brothers, many of them really don't have a problem with that. They
Mm-hmm.
re- they really are happy for the woman out there, but based on the profession that she makes, is
Mm-hmm.
going to make more. The challenge comes in is to if we are there has to be a plan. So this is when the argument comes, well, okay, if you make more, then you should pay more.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get the woman to say, yeah, well, regardless if I make more, you're still the provider and protector, so you pay, you know, this is the thing that the men do. And see, if these conversations, Yashika, are
Mm-hmm.
not had in the dating space, then I can assure you it's not going to change after you walk down the aisle. So
Yeah.
we have to be real honest about. So, but see, here's another thing to look at. Let's just say, for instance, she makes $10 million a year. He
Mm-hmm.
makes 9 million. Are we really going to fuss over $1 million? I mean, you know, they both can do great. I mean, I'm like, brother, if you're still worrying about because she makes $1 million more than you and you're making nine, you know, if she walked out of your life forever, I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not going to hurt, but let's face it, she's not leaving you. You know, you're going to be okay as a man. But
Mm-hmm.
again, when we talk about the overall maybe six figure, and when I say six figure, 100,000 all the way up to let's just say quarter million or things of that nature a year, 300,000, 400,000. I truly, from my experience and from speaking to men, some of them don't have an issue with it. It's just that there are those men who've been in those situations where they've dated women, and it's this whole power struggle that
Yeah.
women, have with that. And so they'll say things like he's insecure. No, he just doesn't. He's just that you're insufferable. I mean, it's like he's happy for you, but you don't even give him a chance to express that because you're too busy trying to remind him that you're wearing the big pants in the family.
Yeah.
So it comes down to discussions that needs to be had in the beginning. And again, it's not that for the most part women want to do that, but there are those who do, and so that's
Okay.
just something to be conscious of.
All right. Well, let's dig a little deeper.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I do is I put myself in the middle of other groups
Mm-hmm.
on social media, and there's this pattern of men that suggests that he don't care about how much money a woman makes, right? Because men don't come with us or be with us for our money, right? I'm
Right.
I'm,
That
I'm
is true.
assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but let's be clear. There are men out there that's like that. So we're gonna put a
Absolutely.
pin right there. We're gonna put a pin
Right.
right there, and we know
Okay.
that this is not a one size fit all, right?
All right.
For the most part, traditionally, men don't come into relationships looking at how much money a woman makes,
That's
right?
true. That's correct.
But what I found though is that maybe it's my ignorance, but that is the younger generation that believes that. Because when I talk to people from my generation, granted, we're not together because we're equal in pay or, he got with me because of my money. But money is a factor in most relationships, especially in my generation, because no one wants to struggle. No one wants to be in a relationship where where they're they're steadfast because the other person is don't want to do much or hasn't done much or whatever. Now, granted, you will have those. Like I said, it's not a one size fit all. So you will have those couples that says, well, the woman is going to stay at home and raise the children or whatever. We get all that, but for the most part, I was only raised with brothers or brother, and I was raised by my uncles, and my uncles have always said to me, that they want women that have their own money. They don't want to take, they want to be able to, yeah, they're going to pay the majority of the bills, but for the most part, they want her to be self sufficient. And so when I hear that and I think about where the way I was raised, and then I hear the men that's saying this now, I can't help but to wonder, is it his self esteem or lack of self esteem that's talking? Because I just don't believe it. I mean, granted, if he's rich, yeah, he can get whatever woman he wants, and then all rules are different than if you're totally rich. But when you're an average person trying to get to 100 or $100,000 a year, or making a little bit over $100,000 a year, the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a relationship with someone who doesn't, don't know what they want to do in life, because most people in my generation are trying to get to the next level. And if there's two, if one person makes, let's just say, $100,000 for easy math, but yet they have to take care of another spouse, or a spouse, and then a couple of kids, they $100,000 have just went down to $20,000. You know what I mean? But now if the other partner is out there making, let's just say $70,000, right? Or 80,000, then guess what? They get to live a little bit better. Then, because now you got two incomes, you got 170 or $80,000 that's taking care of four people as opposed to $100,000. And so I just want to talk about that part of it. What is up with the mindset nowadays that the money is totally irrelevant? Because we know at the end of the day, in my opinion, that's a lie. It's not totally irrelevant.
Okay. There's two things. Remember when you said, what is the mindset of the man? Remember last week I was speaking on when the men look at money as a form of power
Mm-hmm.
and women's security. So again, right, wrong, men have been conditioned and raised throughout the years to accumulate money,
Mm-hmm.
to be the breadwinner, to be the provider. Now, whereas you were raised in a space where the men, it was important for the men to be concerned about the women's money. I was raised in a space where, as a man, you make sure that whether you're making 50, 60, 30, whatever, you don't get yourself into a situation, because we're talking dating, to marry a woman and not be able to take care of all of the household financially.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way, and that's been just my mindset. Now, it's strange how women talk about how things are old fashioned and that's antiquated, but when it comes to the man paying the bills, that's somehow not antiquated, and they don't want to split the bills. But
Right?
that's a whole nother conversation. So it's interesting that you say that, because there are some men, you know, be they Gen X's, Gen Y's, whatever, the millennials, they are a little bit more flexible. However, you do have some women who claim to be modern women, but
Mm-hmm.
still want to do traditional things when it comes to the money. So
Mm-hmm.
they want what's theirs, what they've earned, and things of this nature. Then, yet, when it comes to the man, he's paying all the bills. So I was raised different. I was raised that if you're going to bring a woman into your life and then one day have kids, or it could be a
Mm-hmm.
situation where, let's just say, she was a widow. She already have children. If you fall in love with this woman and the children, then you make sure money is not an issue to that woman. That's all part of being a man, owning some land, owning a house, and then you have a woman. So we're talking now today for those men, or those high earning men, high performance men. Money is still not an issue, to them from the woman, because of the position they would like the woman to play in the marriage. So it could be a helpmate to his businesses that you derive some direct or indirect benefit from, because that is part of what brings in the money that's taking care of all the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, um, kid, if there are children involved, that's something that he is again going to pass down to the children, or to you,
Mm-hmm.
or both. So it really all comes down to the to position the man wants to have, so I'm sorry, it all comes down to how he sees the role of the woman that he wants in his life to play with him, whether or not it's about money. Now, of course, not everybody is going to be a high earning person. It could still be the blue collar person. But again, a certain generation of men were not raised to count the woman's income. Now, she may say, okay, I'll take care of now, the internet or something small. But in terms of the major finances in the houses, the mortgages, the insurances, the car payments, that is something that, as men, I grew up in that section of men are to provide all of that.
Yeah.
Period. In the story.
Yeah. But see, the problem with that is, here's the problem that
Wait a minute,
that
there's
that
a
I that
problem
I'm
with men
noticing with
paying all
that,
the
right?
bills?
No, 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 not no. I'm going back to my original comment because believe you me, I want that. Okay, let's just be clear, and I'm sure most women do. Okay, I want
Well,
to
oh,
keep
because
my
I
little,
just wanted some
I want to
clarification.
keep my little pocket change. Yeah, I want to keep my little pocket
All right.
change. You know what I mean? But the what I was saying earlier about this mindset of some of the men discussions that I see when it comes to they don't care about the woman's income and all this kind of stuff. What I see that as being a problem is it almost it's almost like a form of them trying to take away from a woman's accomplishments. And so that's why I really wanted to talk about that because you have some of women out here who are trying to understand when it comes to dating, what is a man looking for, right? Because you've had women say, well, okay, I remember I heard a conversation where the man asked the woman, tell me a little bit about yourself. And her first conversation was to explain to him the things that she's accomplished from educational perspective, things like that, her job. And so his comment to her, reply to her was, well, no, I want to know about you. Are
Right.
you a this person? Are you a that person? Are you that person? So that's where communication starts to get blurred between when we're dating and the man and the woman. Because what is it exactly they want to hear during those
Okay.
times if everything that we've done on that aspect is irrelevant, right? Even if we do make all this money, even if we don't make a lot of money, whatever. When it comes in terms of dating, where should that conversation go so that we can help out our people out here that's out here dating?
Okay. And that's a fair question. Help me, ladies. I'm speaking to you in particular because I don't want you to think that men are not happy about your accomplishments or proud of your accomplishments. And any man who tells you they really doesn't matter on that level automatically just get up from the dinner table and keep it pushing.
Right.
But see, the way men think when we're talking about dating, if we're at dinner, we're investing, spending money on a date,
Hmm.
we know that whatever accomplishments you have was for you and for you only.
Hmm.
So they were only important to you. So we're saying, okay, I like this woman because she's great with conversation. She could be a great cook,
Hmm.
and maybe she wants to be a homemaker, and that's fine too. Maybe she works from home, so the money she makes is a business that she is passive income. She does that. But what men are looking for is, aside from the accomplishments you did for you, what is it that you were bringing, what he hopes you're bringing to the relationship was companionship, conversation, intimacy, a sense of a vision for a relationship,
Hmm.
similar interests in terms of travel, health and wellness, great exceptional sex.
Hmm.
All of that, those things are important to him. Like I said, if he's a man of a stature, are you a woman that he can take to a function and you can perform with the other wives of the other husbands that are there?
Hmm.
Are you up on current events? Are you willing to learn in the course of travel? You know, are you someone he feels is going to make him look good? Because we
Right.
know other men look at men and the women that they're with. We're like, oh boy, how did you know
Right. Right.
what how did they get to it's like what, and did she have good credit? He had bad credit, or
Right.
was it the sex? Or, was it so? These are those things in which the basis that we're in that is important to men. And
Mhm.
some people think that's superficial. No, that's just the way the world works. So it's not that we are trying to say what you have accomplished is irrelevant. We're looking at it in the space of the relationship. It doesn't benefit me or the relationship. Now, I've talked to couples where the man has says she has a degree in this or that, and be it accounting, she could be an attorney. Then that is something that she has taken her talent and her accomplishments God bless her, and she helps others, but also that's a contribution to the relationship. Because let's
Mhm.
not forget the business aspect of marriage. And we are talking if marriage is the goal, or a long time commitment. So it really comes down to say, but if she has a degree, in liberal arts, you know, we're like, okay, I'm happy for you, but
Right,
what does that contribute to us as a couple?
right.
How does that benefit me? So these are the things that men are looking for and how we, possess. We want to know, are you emotionally mature? You know, do you want to be a mother? Why do you want to be a mother? All of these things that men traditionally want in a woman.
So, yeah.
So is
So
there
we keep
some?
saying, yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
because
asking the
I guess
question.
I'm
I'm just
trying to
telling you what men are looking for. It's not that we
yeah,
say.
and no, I'm trying to make sense of it all, and I speak for myself as well as several women out here that are dating. We say what we want from a traditional standpoint, right?
Hmm.
We want this. The man is saying he wants to know if she's doing this, if she's doing that, if she can do this, make be a mother. Why does she want to be a mother from a traditional standpoint? But when we go into it, he's not going into it from a traditional mindset because if he's looking at it from and if he's looking at it from a traditional mindset, then we wouldn't have so many guys coming into relationships saying, let's split everything 50-50. Because I hear that as well. That's part of the same conversation. So when we talk about tradition, when does the tradition set? Because I'm for if you give me a path to travel, I'm going to travel it, right? But what
Hmm.
I can't do is constantly adjust my path according to one person because I don't know what they're going to think of from day to day. So if we're out here dating and money is not a factor and we all want to be traditional, then why are you saying in the same voice we need to split everything 50-50? Because if we're traditional, that's not how it goes.
Let's just say there are men and women that talks out of both sides of their mouth, for lack of a better. Again, and see, this is where even in my coaching, when I speak to him in particular, I say, listen, you have to be very good at the questions you're asking him.
Mm-hmm,
Because again, it's situations like this where he's talking about the money's not the biggest thing, and then
mm-hmm,
even men, oh, it's not that money's really not that important. Like, yeah, especially these young dudes. I'm like, no, money is very, very important. Let's not make no mistake about it. We're not saying that everybody is going to be a Jay Z and Beyonce and travel the world. Okay, but let's be real honest about the cost
mm-hmm,
of maintaining an apartment, maintaining a house, maintaining children in any given state in this country.
mm-hmm,
And until
mm-hmm.
you have that discussion, then don't tell me about how money's not important in a relationship.
All right.
I remember as a real estate agent one time selling homes and talking to young couples that really, in order to apply for a home, they both
Mm-hmm.
have to have an income coming in.
Absolutely.
And this is the conversations where I'm having. I'm saying, well, look, have you two saved properly in the event either the husband or the wife loses their income, sickness, uh, layoffs, whatever it may be. And see, this is why, again, in the world of coaching, you have to, if you're going to do this 50-50, you really, again, if you, this is what she is determined that she wants,
Mm-hmm.
because she wants to have some sorts of some form of identity or skin in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and he's okay with that, then fine. But at some point, and here is what I've seen happen long term. At some point, the women get tired of paying half. And so I coach the men. Men, listen to me. You can go into that situation if you want, but make sure you're in a position to cover it all in case she changes her mind,
Uh-huh.
loses her job, because these things happen. And I can't tell you how many times these young people really think that together they're going to conquer the world. And all I'm saying is, then you have to put in some safeguards.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I don't care how modern a woman is, at some point, she wants to take that half she normally spends on whatever, and she may want a trip with the girls. Or
Mhm.
she may want to, hell, she just may want to splurge. Damn it, she earned the money. And as a man, we should be able to say, you know what, babe, this month I have it. You know what, for the next 6 months, I got you.
Yeah.
So for me, as whatever the names they choose to call me, traditionalist, whatever, I'm always speaking to men to make sure that regardless of how you choose to do your finances, put yourself in a position as a man to make sure you cover it all. She may never change her mind. There are couples that I've been together 30, 40 years and we've always done 50-50. Don't say it doesn't work. Okay. If that works for you, that works for you.
Right.
But we have a new generation, and look at the price of gas, look at the price of houses, all of this. So that's more likely to happen. But again, as things get better, let's just say he grows in income, she grows in income, or maybe something happens, at some point, she just wants him to cover it.
Okay.
And that's just what that is.
Okay. Well, I think that first of all, for me, and I can speak for many of the women. Like I said last time we did the part one to this,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even imagine going into a marriage. Now, I'm not talking about dating or anything like that. I'm talking about marriage, where my partner tells me we're going to split everything 50-50. I mean, we probably get an annulment. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be honest. Because, like
Right.
I said,
Right.
even if it comes out to be where it looks like it's 50-50, by the time I pay the cable bill and the internet and all that stuff, and he pays the mortgage or whatever, it may total up to be the same. You know what I mean? Give or take. But you better not tell me it's 50-50. Let me just think you're taking care of the hunk of it and I'm taking care of the little $20 here and $40 there and $50 there. See, I won't even think of it about it. But yeah, so for me, that's how I think, but again, I come from that generation, right? Now, what advice would you give to a woman who is making the money? Because right now, let's just be honest, as I said before, there is a gap between the women that's making a certain amount of money and the men that's making a certain amount of money. And it's not just because of the fact that there's a gap per se because of income, but also there's more women comparable to more men. You know what I mean? When it comes to like what is it? Every eight, it's like one man to every eight women or something like that.
Yeah,
And
the
if
numbers are
not
all
10, it
over the
might be
place.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because when you talk about, so many, whatever. So because of that, you have more women that are making a lot more money because you have less men, right? So if it sticks to this, the odds are most women will get a man that make less than them because of the odds of the gap between men and women. So what do you say to a woman who is in that position and she wants to find someone that's compatible, and but we have this mindset in the back of our minds because we want to be traditional, because we saw it this way growing up or whatever, you know um we have that mindset of, well, shoot, he needs to be making this much money with me, and I'm not going to take a guy that's making less money than me. What advice would you have for a woman that's in that position that wants to date, but yet when it comes to finding someone that's on the same income level, the numbers are all over the place?
Well, ultimately, well, as I said earlier, as it stands right now, overall, especially in our community, the brothers make more than the sisters. The trend is happening that at some point, I don't know when this is, because yeah, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of information going out that's got all these black women thinking that there's most of the black women are making most of the black men. I'm going, and I'm still waiting for someone to show me the numbers that where they're getting the stats from. But I can show them. Matter of fact, you can go to blackdemographics.com. There's many things that'll tell you within the black community where we stand economically, household wide, home ownership, things of this nature. So as I'm looking at least research that I've said, and I'm like, no, the sisters are not killing it in that way. Now, again, as the trend continues, you're right. It's looking like that is going to be a space. And currently, there are black women that do make more than, if you're given in certain states. What should a black woman do, or, in that space? Well, one thing you should not do is try to shame a man into making more. Let's just say he has a profession he loves, as I said last week, that is just capped at a certain amount of money. It's not going to make. Now, if he chooses to, he can do a side hustle. I believe that's just your grandfather or your father
Yeah.
who was a head. They can do that because men are handy or things of this nature. But it's so funny how you mention cars,
Uh-huh.
and then I look at what it takes to repair a car today. I'm like, well, damn, you do, it's not as easy as it was back then.
Right.
You had there were so many things that a man can do with his hands that.
Hmm.
But again, if you have a man who has a job and he knows he's not making all he'd like to make and he's on route doing some things, then that may be a man she may consider. I'm not saying she should, but she has to be honest that there really is no concrete answer because I don't want her to lower her standard of living
Hmm.
for a man that she's fallen for but can't provide her a lifestyle in which, because I can tell you it may great sound great at first, but I still love him, it's the money doesn't matter, and then it's time to go to Cancun, you know
Yeah.
and instead of a 2-star hotel, which she's
Yeah.
worked over her life, and now she wants 5-star. And he's like, babe, you know what you signed up for when you got me.
Yeah.
I'm a two
I mean,
star
but
hotel
sometimes we
income,
will
and
date
so
on
it's
potential.
a hard thing. And this is what happens, Yashika. She doesn't mind footing it this time or
Uh-huh.
the
But
next time,
right.
but at some point,
Yeah.
one of two things are going to happen. At one point, the man is going to be sitting in the hotel room, usually
Mm-hmm.
after making love,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to look out there and really not feel that he's the man he'd like to be to her. Especially when he loves her, because again, men, we are just wired that way. We want to be that. We want to be that man.
Mm-hmm.
We want to take care of our woman. And that is a good man. I can't focus on all of the non-productive men, and they exist, and I just get frustrated with women focusing on those brothers when there are men out there really putting in some hard work because they know they want that life and they want to provide that. But either he's going to feel emasculated, or she's going to say, I love him, but I don't want to keep going in my pocket to buy
Right.
something. Now, again, we can all say, well, sis, you signed up for this. As true as that may be, this is when you get into the challenges. And there is no concrete answer to that because she loves him,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, that kind of part is warned its welcome. She's like, and
Right.
this is when she starts to like, hey, babe, well, why don't you do a couple hours here, or there's this thing here, or bet, why don't you, help me in my business? And then as a
Right.
man, he's like, okay, wait a minute, and now you have an issue with my money, the
Right.
money I
Well,
make, and this is when it all goes. That's when they're calling you or me
yeah.
to say, Yashika, what do I do?
Yeah.
So there is no, I can tell you,
But we as women, we will listen. I don't know if this is the right way to do things. I've been out the game for a minute, but we will date on potential.
oh,
You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah,
We will
yeah,
date
the
on
whole boy.
potential. Men don't date on potential. It's either you show up
Mm-hmm.
in certain parts of his life the way he wants him to, or you don't. But we will date on potential, right? Because we have this, we believe in that,
We're gonna turn
somewhere
that
along
frog into a prince.
exactly somewhere along the line somebody told us that and
Yeah.
we believed it.
Yep.
We believed it that, I'm a stick with him. There's that little meme that goes on. The woman
That's
is, and she was like, but that's, yeah, he mine. I'm gonna stick with him. That's the,
And I just shake my head because I'm going, yep, they're going to be calling this chic on me at one point because it all sounds cute on TikTok. But when rubber meets the
Right.
road, she's like, this broke. Yep, this is what
But
happens.
we do because we want to believe that he's gonna do what he say he's gonna do. We want to believe that he's gonna make it right. I mean, even in my own personal journeys, I recall conversations way back when, where the person, promised this and that and the third, and then when it was time, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. You know what I mean? And so I'm just like, well, dang, what happened to when you said you was gonna do this? And by that time, a lot had happened, and so it was like, okay, well, what do I do now? Do I make this decision to stay or do I go? But because we want to believe that, we want to believe that at some point, it'll all work out. Because we want to believe that both parties, whether I'm speaking from a woman's perspective or a man's perspective, we want to believe that both parties want the same goals in life.
Right.
We want
I
to
agree.
be, once a year going on vacation and being able to go somewhere without having to worry or stress about it or whatever. And no one said that you had to be rich with it, just be able to provide some form of, a little bit of luxury, especially as you get older. When
Right.
I want to be able to take a vacation once a year if I've been at my job for 20 years. You know what I mean? So that's what we desire. So sometimes we will date on potential, but then I think that there's a part of us as women that we start to listen to society when we date, right? When it comes
You
to
think?
the men that we date. Yeah, absolutely. We listen to society,
Mm-hmm.
um and society has an impact, like, say for example, because this is real life, right? This is real life, this is our community. We've both been in the community for quite some time, right?
Right.
And you see, like, a lot of our brothers, they've had some tough times in their childhood. They had to learn some rough, got on some rough roads, so they got records, they got this, they got that. But at some point they said, you know what, this ain't what I want no more. I realized that there's more to life than this. Let me get my stuff together. But then it doesn't cancel out their past. So their past, although it's in the past, people will still judge them for what they did way back when. And so you'll have women that look at these men as potential good men, that they're going to do right, they're doing right, their past is their past. But then we'll allow society to tell us, girl, he ain't gonna do right. He used to do this back in the day, or why you with him? He barely got a job. He can't even get a good job. You know what I mean? So we'll listen to that, and we may see potential in this man. We may know that this man is gonna do right. We, for whatever reason, our little intuition tells us he's gonna be good. Matter of fact, the model, the one who went viral from his mugshot, right?
Oh
This guy
yes. Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a criminal. Yeah, he was a criminal, right? In and out of jail pretty much all his life. And now this guy is a freaking model, right? So when you look at that, right, I'm sure that mugshot prior to him getting out of jail and getting these calls, because I think he got released to be able to go and be a model. Like, it was the whole thing. I watched it because the
I
judge was
remember.
like,
Yeah. The
yeah, the
bald
judge
headed
was
light skin
like,
with the
yeah,
eyes and everything.
yeah. The
Mm-hmm.
judge was like, I'm going to actually release you because this is a once in a lifetime thing for him. So he ended up getting out of jail early because he had literally got a modeling contract. And I watched this whole interview, but when you think about that person that was with him prior to that, you already know now they're going to change their whole concept of this man, right? Because now he got a reason to not be in jail. Now he has a reason to make money and not put himself in positions to grind back up in jail. But when you think about it, he was doing what he thought he needed to do to make it in the world. Because once he got that one strike against him, it was kind of hard for him to go out here and all of a sudden start making six figures, you know what I mean? Or get a job in corporate America because he had a record with him. So it's like, okay, well, I don't have a choice but to resort back to a life of crime because I have this record. Because everybody is not Judge Mathis. Everybody is not Judge Mathis that get his life around and got everything expunged out his records, and now he's he was a lawyer than a darn judge. Everybody can't go that path. So I say all that as I'm running through is that I'm just thinking about, we as women, sometimes we do find good men. Sometimes we do see potential in men. Sometimes we do call it wrong. right? But then there's those times where we call it right, but then we allow society to tell us something different because what we think we supposed to have, or we think the man that's supposed to show up to be our knight in shining armor. You know what I mean? And so I think that we have to really cut out all the clutter. Like we can't be crazy, like and just totally ignore what everybody is saying. But I think for the most part, um, we have to have our own discernment, really. What are we gonna do? You know?
You do, but let's put this in the. There is a wasteland of women. Well, let me not use that. There are many stories of women whose credit, bankruptcy, losing the house behind quote unquote potential.
Hmm.
And so remember, Yashika, you and I are talking to many generations. And so I find far too many women are trying to live their love life on the exceptions. And I get it. I get it. If I'm a man struggling in these streets, I would love a sister to come along and brush me off and, whatever. But the reality is, those stories don't happen that often. Those fairy tale stories just don't happen that often. I mean, hell, what are the chances of any brother in jail? I'm sure there's a lot of handsome brothers, and because there are women who are still marrying him and they're still in jail. So I don't think that's healthy, but that's another conversation.
Right?
What I'm trying to say is, when you're in your 20s, maybe you have a little time for someone with potential.
Yep.
But when you're in your 30s and your 40s and 50s and all of that, I'm just not going, and I know there's going to be some brothers who's going to be hot. They're going to be like, and they're going to have their particular story. And, and if it worked out for you brothers, I'm happy for you. I sincerely happy for you. And to the ladies, I'm glad it worked out for you.
Right.
But in these 30 years of talking to couples and singles and things of this nature, when I tell you, as she's describing his potential,
Hmm.
in my mind, I'm going, you could just write the next three chapters,
Hmm.
and like clockwork, it happens, and then she's calling with the world of hurt and everything else.
Yes.
So I get it, and God bless you, sisters, for doing that. But again, and this is why the men that I'm around, and so grateful for the men that I did grow up around, who are really drilling in my head. Get your own. Be on your purpose. Stay focused. If that means not dating for a year, 2 years, or whatever the case may be, get your what together, so that and this is staying away from the drugs, finishing school, things of this nature, because you just never know
Right.
what happens. You know, in these spaces, you may meet that woman who you went from 50 to 100 to 150. Now we're talking depends. You're on a trend going up. That's one thing. But if you're stuck at 30,000 for 12 years and you're 45 years old,
Right.
do you at whatever that same age want to be worried about potential
Right.
after you put in your time? Again, a woman is going to do what she wants to do, but it's just, again, I'm not a big proponent of dealing with potential when you're a certain age. It usually just works against you.
I mean, yeah. I mean, because there's. I was sitting
There are
here thinking
tons of
about
books,
that.
tons of
Yeah. I
miniseries,
mean,
there's all of
yeah.
that.
There's a lot of things that I would have tolerated, and I'm going to use that word. I would have accepted, tolerated, been okay with in my 20s. That as I knock on my 50s door, there's just nowhere to hell. There's just
Exactly, and
nowhere
that's
to
what I
hell.
want, because you realize, right?
Yeah, I mean, but then there's the opposite of that too. In my 20s, if my husband kind of snored a little bit, I'd be like, oh, that's cute, right? But now if he snores, I'm like, wake your butt up and go in another room,
Yeah,
So
when we say the same.
it's opposite because now I know the importance of my sleep. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like babies when they're passing gas and you're baby and they're holding them and they look, oh, they're so cute. Let a grown ass man sit up there start passing gas. Exactly. And so there's those things that again, as
Yeah.
women, I'm always encouraged. I say, listen, I get it. I'm sure he's a great guy. And there are those stories where men will tell you, oh, she passed me up. I didn't have, and now look at me now. I think, matter of fact, I think the Vapors, Bismarcky, I'm a big hip hopper.
Oh,
He talked about that when he was, again,
yeah.
we all have these stories. And again, and brothers, if she missed out, okay,
Yeah.
trust me, it's the way it works. If you were not there, then don't get mad at her because she didn't want to stick around with the struggle love. Okay, so I'm happy you're balling. Platinum walls. You're in the NBA. Those things happen.
Yeah.
You know, but understand where she was and what she didn't. There's a chance that you may not have gotten that. There's a chance that you may not have been as motivated now that you've got her.
Right. Right.
So who's
Right.
to say? So again, I'm just very very big on ladies be equally yoked. And I know that's a term that everyone uses, and look for if you've worked hard to achieve a lifestyle. I believe there's a man out there for you
Hmm.
in that. So make yourself available for those men. But to date, I don't want to say dating down, but because that's just, I don't think, to me, that doesn't sound right. Just know that to connect yourself with someone, and I get it, he may have all these other wonderful characteristics, but in the end, long term, you're going to pay the price for that lack of income that is not coming in, and you're not going to want to do it all the time.
Absolutely.
So that
Absolutely.
I'm sure we dig deep enough, there may be some couples who she's okay with that. Okay, then more power to you. But on average, women long term are not going to want to pay for everything and provide and do 50 and or more. They're just not. No matter how much
Yeah.
they make, they want to know that their man has got them for the day when they want to just sit down and chill out and just do women shit. Just
Yeah.
maybe they wasn't cooking all the time, but they were good at cooking. They want to get back to cooking. They just want to stay home.
Hmm.
They want to go have massage parties with the girls, and they want to. And now she realizes she can't do that because the husband doesn't have the income to do it. I mean, there are many, many stories from therapists and divorce attorneys and family counselors who will back what I say up. It all sounded good in the beginning, but in the end, brothers, get your
Yeah.
money together. Don't sit up here and buy into that. Money's not the most important thing. We're not saying that. I'm just saying let's be honest about what it does cost to maintain a marriage.
Absolutely. And then there's that thin line for us women where we feel like we're being supportive while he come up and then us being a sugar mama. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
We're like, hold up, now I
that's that.
a real thin line.
Right,
Especially when you get this age, you
right.
be
That's
like,
what she saw. Yeah,
I'm not about because there are men out there who prey on women that are just wanting to be with someone, and they do this part of a scheme. We hear about it
yep,
all the time on Dateline and things like that. And so there is that thin line, and that's why I say for me, there's just certain things that I would go for as a younger woman that I wouldn't go for now because there's that thing. Because now I have to say, okay, are they with me for this reason or are they with me for that reason? So I don't have time for him to be trying to come up. You
right.
know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if I'm with him and the income bracket is different, that I know we're just playing around. It's just playing around. There's no
Yeah,
longevity in it. You know what I mean? There's
right.
just something to do for a little while to make sure the other side of the bed stays warm. But
Yeah.
there's no longevity in it because I can't maintain that feeling of being a sugar mama, right?
And
It's
even in
like
the bed over
no.
time, it'll play itself out in that space as well.
Yeah,
So when
absolutely,
when you're spending your sugar, you're not trying to
yeah,
give
absolutely.
anybody in the room. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not focused on anything else. So I
Yeah.
think that would be so as we end this part of the series of he said she said when she makes more money than you part two or than him part two, what would be I know you were saying some things earlier about women make sure you do this, but would those be your your I would say your advice that you would give women when they meet? Like, what would be your true to this particular subject advice to women who make more money than men and they're out here dating?
I would. One of the things I question when I'm in that space, I'm always asking about their vision for themselves, and I encourage the men and women to have a vision for the relationship. If they choose to stay in it, they have to have a vision for that because that's going to tell the story of where it's going to go at the current income.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask, do you, because do you do planning on retiring at some point? And if you do, then whose money you're living off of?
Right.
You know, the kids are going to be off to college. Are you going to pay most of that? So once you get a vision, they'll start to say, okay, again, because it's not more about me giving them the answer. It's them through the analysis of where they're looking to go for themselves and for the
Mm-hmm.
relationship that will say, okay, Ronnie, I see that. Okay, let's break this down. And if inflation stays that it is, and we do hard numbers because I really need you to feel this and understand. So it's not more so just again in the coaching where I'm telling someone whether to stay or to leave. I'm just saying,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's just say he is a wonderful man. You love him. You can see the rest of your life. Then, okay, let's see what this looks like 10, 15, 20 years from now. And then she'll start to think and say, you know what, wow, you know. And let's say, God forbid, something happens to her health wise and she can't run the business. She has to shut it down or the job. Then what?
Right.
So when we
Right.
talk about this, it's not the most important thing, or is it not important? No, it's very important because we all know where a sickness may come. Sometimes an unplanned pregnancy comes along, and we already know how much that's going to cost.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to take care of it? Because now you're going to be home,
Yep.
so your income is going to be sliced on both households. And this is why when we talk about the 50-50, is it really 50-50 in the case of hard times or a challenge in the relationship health wise if
Right.
there's a layoff or things of this nature? And this is again going back to the men saying, man, if you choose to do that because she wants nothing else and you're hopelessly in love, then I'm still saying, man, then you still need to be prepared just in case this happens, because I can assure you she's going to be watching you as a man and how you handle crisis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
have the conversation. I just coach women again. I don't want to tell you what to do, but just be real clear about when you said, Ron, there is some potential there.
Right.
There is some potential. Okay, well, let's look at what this potential is going to cost you, because it is going to cost you. So yeah, let's find out how much the potential is going to cost you. Let's break down the numbers. You make
Yeah.
how much? You do this, and this is what I did. With couples sitting, we're talking about investments and insurance and all of this, and then they realize, ooh, okay, so now what happens if? What are you going to do if this
Right.
happens? And then the reality hits because they can relate to someone who went through that. And so again, it's a case by case basis. I don't want to say woman, one size fits all. I just want you to be real honest about the direction of yourself as a woman, your income, and your relationship with this man you're now hoping will be Mr. Right.
Yeah. And I think you and I kind of agree on that. I think my advice that I would give to a woman in that situation is just simple. Be true to who you are and what you're doing in life and where you're trying to see yourself go. Because if you choose to get into a relationship, like and I keep saying age because age is a factor because we have a different mindset at every decade of our lives, right? We change about what we want, what we need, what we desire.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are at an age where, you've realized that some things were more important than others, whatever that may be, right? Whatever decision you make, if you run into a situation like this and you realize that, hey, I make a lot more than him, but because of this reason or because of that reason, I'm gonna stick by him, right? Be true to that decision, but make sure that both of you guys have open communications. Make sure that both of you guys are not going to use it against the other one later on, and understand what you're saying, understand what you're getting yourself into, understand that, if it's the money and all that, if you're the one that's making, $1 million and he's barely making $100,000 or whatever the difference is, know that you're going to be the one that's going to pay much for everything. Know this going in, but at some point you have made a decision that this was more important than that, for whatever your life looks like for you, and be okay with it. But don't take that same mindset or that same situation and then turn around and throw it up in that other person's face. Like, you do what I make more money than you. You don't make no money. You ain't got no. Don't do that. Just be okay with your
Thank you.
decision, because
Thank you for saying
you
that.
know
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that that's where the communication comes in at, that's where the maturity comes in at, and that's from just being really honest and grounded in your relationship. Because what they always say, money is the root of all evil, but it's just energy. So if you let that energy control your relationship, then that's where you're going to be at with it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so that's the advice that I would give any woman in that situation. Just be know what you're getting into, be true to it. Don't compromise who you are, what you want, what you need, what you desire, and just go for it. And then if you feel like at some point, you made a bad decision, hey, you can bail out. You have that choice to bail out before it keeps going on, right? Because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes a person changes, we changes, whatever. Especially, but I think that when you're dating, it's a little bit more fluid. But I'm talking about if you choose to go into a marriage with a person whose income is different. Just make sure that you guys are really honest and open and communicative with each other, because it can get really sticky up in there. You know what I mean?
Hmm. I
So
agree.
that's all I have.
I
All right,
agree.
Ronnie. So do you have any parting words as we close up this chapter, or this series, this part of our series of He Said, She Said When She Makes More Money Than Him, part two? Do you have anything else you wanted to put out to the community?
Wow. I wanted to just say that, first of all, thank you for the support of Yashika and I as we moving forward, and as you go into the holiday series. For those of you who are going into the family still single, don't give up and don't let the family give you a hard time. If you are going in there with your significant other for the first time and meeting a family, I wish you well. And for those of you ladies who are making more than your man going into such a situation, don't let the family ignite some discussion that you need to have either before or after. It
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. You have the feelings that you have for this particular gentleman, and then let any of the other family members gaslight a situation that should not be none of their business any damn way. So,
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, well, we'll be speaking before the Thanksgiving holidays, but again, I just want to say thank you, and I hope as you're going into that situation with the future family, or with your future spouse, that your guards are up, because this is the season for drama and arguments with future family members coming in, and the family that's already there. So that's the best. That's where I'm going to go with this one in terms of closing remarks.
Okay, well, let the fun begin. It's time for us to start seeing those memes going away on social media, where you can rent somebody for the holidays and you get this package, or you can get the upgraded package, right?
Yeah,
So those are going to start flowing through. Well, Ronnie,
yeah.
this has been lovely. I enjoy this conversation. And I know that there's probably a lot more things that we could have covered.
Yes.
Because the conversation can go on forever. It can go
Yes,
on
it
forever
can.
when it
It could.
comes,
It
especially when you
could.
start talking about money. But as always, it's been a pleasure. So for those of you who are out there, whether you're streaming from Facebook or YouTube, if you did not catch this live, just make sure you hashtag replay and let us know where you're watching this from. If you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that when we do go live or when we post the video, you guys will get the notifications. If you are catching this in my personal Facebook page, then make sure you go over to the Ronnie and Yashika's dating discussions and become a member in our group. Just go ahead and ask to join, and we'll let you right on in. So then that way you will get some of the information that we put out to the group, but not necessarily to Facebook as a whole. And yeah, so make sure you follow us. We are both on IG at I'm at Coach underscore Yashika and Ronnie. Give them your IG.
I'm an official Ronnie Walker, and you can also find Ronnie and Sheikah as well on IG. But official Ronnie Walker is my Instagram. I had so many platforms that I have to remember to keep up with
I
them. But
know,
yes, you
right?
can. More importantly, you can find Ronnie and Yashika
And
on
also
IG as well.
all of this is in the comments. So if you look
Yes.
below in this description, you can get all the information. But this has been lovely. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will catch you in the very next live. Have a good evening, Ronnie.
Take care, everybody, and have a good evening, Yashika.